This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible. This, of course, is your election headquarters. We are ready to take you live to the Northern Regional Capital, Tamale. This is first in our series of Ghana Connect programs that we are eliciting what the ordinary Ghanaian want to see in the manifestos of ahead of the 2024 general elections. And my colleague Evans Mensah, head of our political desk, is ready to take folks in Tamale through what the expectations are as we await the manifestos from the political parties. I can now take you live to the Northern Regional Capital, Tamale, for the first in the series of Ghana Connect programs here on Joy News.
And indeed, we are live from the Batco here in Tamale. It's the Bagabaga Training College. It's been an exciting day. And you're just joining us just when we wrapped up this pre-event conversation where Star Ghana and his team of experts and consultants have been interacting with the people in this room. And you can see them, many of them are still seated here waiting for this conversation. And I'm delighted that I can welcome all of you, wherever you are in the world, joining us live for this Star Ghana Joy News Ghana Connect Town Hall, live from the Batco, the Bagabaga Training College here in Tamale. And I really want to welcome our audiences who are with us in this auditorium. They really have made this a really exciting day for us, giving us a sense of the key issues of importance to them, the real needs that they really want the parties to think about as they craft their manifestos. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I just want to hear them through a massive clap, just thanking them for the participation they've put in so far, for us to appreciate what the real issues are. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, a big round of applause for yourselves. And I must say that we have everybody represented here today in this great city of Tamale. People are coming from all walks of life. The disabled are here representing their group. We have market women, we have academics, we have teachers, we have students, we have individuals from the security sector who are all represented here. And Star Ghana has made this all possible. My name is Evans Mensah, and I'm here with Blessed Soga and my colleague Martina Bugri, who are standing by in the audience, because this, after all, is a town hall designed to get the citizens' view so we can get those views representing the party's manifestos this year. And as we've been saying in the build-up to this, if we don't get the manifestos right now, we can't get it right ever. We've seen that over the period, and that is why we have crafted this together with Star Ghana that has been implementing the Manifesto Influencing Project to get this done. And so, Bless, I want to bring you into the conversation. You've already had a chunk of a bite at what has been happening here today. What is it that has hit you pretty hard in terms of the conversations you've been having with the audiences ahead of this live event?
Well, Evans, we are all delighted about the fact that this is about the audience. In fact, the electorate, who are also millions of them watching us at home, those who are not particularly here. But I'm excited about the venue itself, where I'm here standing with Martina. We'll be getting into it shortly, speaking to all of these people who are very eager to share their concerns to the political class and to make them aware about the concerns that they do have about this very forum that we have created for them in partnership with Star Ghana Foundation and your election headquarters here on the Joy News channel. But we must point out that the venue for me, Evans, is striking. This is Batco, and of course it's a college of education. You know that key on the agenda for many of the students that are here also is about the allowances, the quota system, and education in general. So that's the starting point. But beyond that, there are a mix, a cross-section of society represented here from within Tamale and its environs, who will all be sharing their concerns with us, issues about livelihood, about health, and in fact, there was a pre-engagement where many concerns have been raised. So we just have to wait for that moment, wait eagerly, patiently as well, as you start off with, of course, our panelists, and then we'll get into the audience interaction with my colleague Martina Bugri, who is with us here. So it's a complete team, a packed team, bringing you a 360 view. And for those of you who are watching us at home, feel free to share your comments. We'll share that as well, Evans.
Indeed, Blessed. And we are live on radio on Joy 99.7 FM. We are live on the Joy News channel. and I know many of you are watching us. We are live across our many social media platforms on YouTube, on Facebook, My Joy Online, on Twitter. And so you can join us. If you're not here physically, you can join us. We'll be making sure that the world hears your views as we begin to gather these views. And Star Ghana will be going ahead, presenting this to the parties, hoping to get the parties to pay attention. And there was a point that was made before we came live when we indeed started talking to those in the auditorium about we have to show to the politicians that we are angry enough. And that when they see that we are angry enough, they'll take us seriously. And hopefully we can get to see these views strongly reflected. But I must point out that we're not just going to communicate primarily in English, which we always do. This is an election year. It's about ordinary people. We've set ourselves this objective of empowering people to make informed choices. We can't only do that in English. And so here on this Ghana Connect Town Hall, we are inviting all of you. If you want to speak in your local dialect, feel free to do so. Primarily to be English, but if you want to communicate in your local dialect, feel free to do so. And that is why I have Martina Bugri with me here. She will be helping us with the translations as we go along. We don't want anybody left out. And that is what Star Ghana stands for. Inclusivity is very important. And so that is what is going to happen. Another thing that is going to happen is we are going to also put some of the issues to the political parties. And your representatives are here. We want to make sure that we are not just talking. They're giving us a sense of how important these views are in the crafting of the manifestos. And that is why we have representatives from both the MPP and the NDC in the region with us. We have Mohammed Salam, for example, who is a Northern Regional Secretary of the National Democratic Congress with us today. We also have Brahma Aziza, who is representing the MPP's parliamentary candidate for the area in question. And this area is Sanarugu, by the way, and he's representing the PC for the MPP here. We have Abu Mohammed, the Tamale South Constituency rep, representing the Member of Parliament, also with us, and IK Saini, also representing the NDC here, the regional communications, it belongs to the regional communications team. We'll get your thoughts there, but it is about the people first. And I want to bring in my panelists who, their job is very simple. It's to expand on the key issues that had come up before we went live. Then we can hear from the audiences. It's going to be about audience interaction from the start. And so I'm delighted to say that I've been joined by health economist and consultant, Caesar Kaba. Hello, Caesar. Yeah. Great to have you. All of you put your microphones on, and please power the microphones for me. Caesar Kaba will be dealing with the health issues. And as Blazer had said at the beginning, we are focusing on three primary issues here in this town hall. We are focusing on health, we are focusing on education, and we are focusing on social protection. We will structure the conversation along those lines. The first issues we will deal with will revolve around the issue of education. From there, we'll come to health and then social protection. So that's how we are going to structure this. So we have a bit of, but we'll start by boxing all the issues together so we have a fair idea of the key issues in each of the areas. And that is why I have with me Divine Pei, and I know him. We've spoken to him many times on Joy News. He's a friend of Joy News, but also a friend of Star Ghana. He is a senior programs officer at the Africa Education Ward. Hello, Divine. Great to have you. And of course, we are doing this because Star Ghana had made it possible. We couldn't have had this conversation without them. It's a great partnership that we love. And that is why Eunice Agbenyaji is with us today. Hello, Eunice.
Hi, Evans.
Great to have you join us. And Eunice, by the way, is the head of programs with Star Ghana. And Eunice, I choose you a start because I know that you were clustering the issues and Dr. Nestina Tete was putting them together when we started. There are a few of them that struck me because talking to people is important, right? When you look at the subject of education, it was very clear what people were talking about. I heard people talking about free SHS. They wanted reforms. They wanted some needs assessment. A bit more targeting was important to people. Quality was important. Access was important. That there. You have, as I said, health was also there. And I was fascinated by a suggestion by a chief who is with us, and I'll go to him to expand on it, who says we should force our officials to take their kids to schools in Ghana, that it must be compulsory, that if you're a duty bearer, you cannot put your child in a public school. And then on the health subject, somebody also in the audience said, well, we should again ban all duty holders and political office holders from seeking healthcare abroad, that they must seek healthcare here. Maybe that will compel them to invest in that area. First, summarize for me some of the key things that had come up in the first session.
Thank you very much, Evans. And so we have been speaking with many people since morning, and it's important to mention that these people are ordinary Ghanaians, right? They are not subject matter experts. And so their suggestions, their discussions are really grounded in their experience, in terms of accessing healthcare, education, and social protection. What has come up from the conversation, one is the issue of financing. And when we talk about Northern Ghana, I need to quickly add equitable financing. Because we know, and later on the data would show, that when we look at education access quality, with all the indicators, the performance of Northern Ghana, the five northern regions, is really poor. If it is outcomes in education, if it is access to good school infrastructure or healthcare, those performances are bad. And so equitable financing has come up strongly, that when you are distributing public resources and you do it from the lens of equity, the advantage is that it helps you allocate more to the areas that need more. And so that has come up very strongly. And when we also look at the distribution of quality input, it has relationship with financing, because you are also distributing human resource based on their needs, And so we are looking at healthcare. What are the ratio of doctor to patient in Northern Ghana, nurse to patient in Northern Ghana, and comparatively to Southern, it is really poor. When we talk about even equipment, I am told that for some healthcare, you would have to travel to Kumasi or Accra to be able to access those. And so equitable distribution means that we are allocating finances based on their need. We are distributing, human resource based on their needs. We are also distributing equipment based on their needs. Or in education, it will be the teaching and learning material. So that has come up very strongly. That also the issue of a bit of financing, but linked to social protection. And it came up strongly from the women's rights organizations, that the Domestic Violence Acts of 2006 commits government to set up the DV fund. The purpose of the DV fund is to be able to support the medical needs of victims or survivors of gender-based violence. And so if we don't have the fund resourced enough, what it means is that if you have suffered any abuse and you do not have money, and bear in mind that we are talking about Northern Ghana, when the poverty rates are quite high, and where there's high poverty, the incidences of violence also is high. So there's kind of relationship there. So if you suffer violence and you do not get, support to be able to make the reports, medical reports, etc., then you are not going to access justice, So that has also come up very strongly. That also for the group, investment into mental health care. And what has come up is that because government currently does not have an allocated pot for how mental health will be delivered, when the legislative instrument for the Mental Health Act was introduced, it had to be withdrawn. And so we cannot talk about expanding access to mental health care if we do not have, for the first step, an ally in place and resourcing the delivery of mental health care. So these are some of the issues that have come up from the group, and I've been very happy because they did not end at only issues. They have offered suggestions.
Yes, and we are going to be taking those suggestions from the audience pretty shortly. But I want to come to you, Caesar. I mean, one of the key issues that we didn't expand on, but was mentioned, that I thought was important when it came to the subject of health, was the issue that was related to leadership and governance. Leadership and governance. Expand on that for me. How important is it that in crafting manifestos, parties pay attention to it? But what are the issues there when it comes to leadership and governance in that sector?
Yeah, thank you, Evans, and happy to be here. Like you said, usually even in our Northern proverbs, that if you get to a house and things are wrong, then you look for the leader. The principle is that the government sits at the gatekeeping side. They take our resources, they determine the next step of our country, and all of that. And quite a lot of the time, they are determining these priorities based on citizens' ideas sometimes, and also how to get votes. But looking at the health system, we know leadership is a key building block. And let me just cite an example. 3 days ago, we had the issue of the intention of the ECG to close down hospitals, to disconnect them because of lack of payments. I like to reflect, for instance, that the decision not to pay utilities for hospitals was a leadership decision. It was a policy decision of our government to say that the utilities are not being managed in a way that they should, and so let us find another model to manage it. And so hospitals and health institutions should manage their own utilities and pay for it. Now we are at the crossroads. The government has to also take a policy decision. Should we bail these hospitals out, or should we allow them to do what they can to pay or be disconnected? So if you look at the cry of the fruits of this policy decision, you may not understand what the critical role of leadership was in this extent. If you look at the health financing issues, and they came out very clearly here. We have an equitable model in Ghana, which says that not all of us fall sick all the time, but let's all pool our resources under the National Health Insurance, and let's use those resources to take care of those who fall sick at every given moment. Unfortunately, there's also been a leadership decision to cap that funding that comes to the National Health Insurance Scheme and use parts of that to take care of the other priorities of the state. That is a leadership decision. And so if you walk into the facility, you may realize your health insurance is not as effective as it should be, but the solution lies in leadership.
Okay, and when you listen to these points, what we are saying is that these are the issues that the people want to see addressed in the manifestos. That in essence, so he's just not repeating the problems. We're saying we are crafting them, so when we begin to hear from the audience, they themselves begin to tell you what their issues are. But parties must pay attention. These are the issues of important. Even if they don't propose solutions that directly address it, the party should be thinking about what do we do about addressing these issues that you're raising. That fundamentally is why we are having it. So as you're listening, listen to it within that framework. Please proceed.
Yes, so exactly the point. For us, we are here to explain to the citizens the building blocks of the fruits of the malfunctioning health system we have. And like you said, the leadership issue is one of them. And they mentioned the issue of the distribution of health workers, for instance. Currently, Ghana is exceeding WHO expectations in nursing to population ratio.
What is that now?
So currently, we are at 1,000 to 600 nurses. WHO says we should be 1 to 2,000, but we are at
1 is to 600
currently. That means a leadership decision has to take critical look at how many nurses do we churn out in the system. It's not as if nurses are not more important in the system, but if you compare the rate at which we need nurses as that of doctors, then an incentivized scheme, if it is going to be prioritized, should not be for nurses in this system.
In other words, you're talking about the controversial subject of nursing training allowance.
Exactly.
Okay, and one of the things we'll do today on that controversial side, it was a big political issue in the last elections and the one before. My audiences are here. I'll ask them, what do you want to see? Do you want that maintained? Or do you want all the parties to commit to scrap it? And what do you replace that with, if at all, right?
Yeah. But the point we want to make here, that will inform what the citizens would demand, is that if you are looking for a dentist in Tamale, you may have to book an appointment and wait for a lot of days or so many days before you meet the person.
Why?
If you want a gynecologist, you are going to wait for so many days before you meet them. The fundamental issue is that specialist care is lacking in so many parts of our country. And so, if we want to incentivize health workforce and recruitment and training, the question to our political parties is, if you compare the patient or population to doctor ratio of 1:4,000 currently, where we are heading towards a 1:1,000, you know the deficit. So if you want to incentivize the recruitment of health providers, where should your money go? For me, sitting here, I like to think that...
Don't answer it yet. Don't answer it yet, because that's why the audiences are here. I want to hear them.
Yeah.
We don't want to influence them so much.
Good.
We are informing them about the general issues. We are informing them, but they have to make the decision.
Thank you.
Right? In fact, that is the whole idea. We want them to make informed choices. So don't make a choice based on the information that you've armed them with. You've told us a lot. In other words, should the government be implementing doctor trainee allowance or a nursing training allowance? Is the question that you're asking.
That is the question.
This is the question. So audiences must answer that.
Yeah.
I mean, the people must answer the question, not the politicians. The people must tell the politician what they want. And if the politician does not do what the people are asking for, then the expectation is when they go into the booth, they'll punish the politician who did not do what they want, right?
Yeah.
So those are key issues. And I want to bring in Divine to touch on the education for me. Then I'll get into it. I'm just in a hurry to come to you. I'm just in a hurry. Because when you were talking, I believe you were talking about if you need a gynecologist or a doctor. The lady in front of me mentioned that, you mentioned some months. How many months? It says 6 months or something. I heard it. We'll come to that. People really have experiences, right? And I think you made a point, Eunice, that it's lived experiences, right? Divine.
Evans?
When you were laying out your issues about education, it was just a law. Education is a topical issue right now. It's a topical issue. It's driven our elections. Our 2 election cycles have been driven by the subject of education. Free SHS won this current government elections and they continued it into... So we expect that to continue, right? And you laid out some of the issues. You talked about financing. You talked about equitable distribution of resources. But what are the biggest issues that the party should be thinking about?
All right, for us at Africa Education Watch, having been looking at education space for the past 4 years, we strongly believe that going into the next election, the political parties should look at closing the equity gap between the rural areas and the urban areas. We are seeing increasing gap between these 2 areas when it comes to access, when it comes to the area of quality education or learning outcomes as well. So it's very important that the political parties, in crafting their manifesto, look at how they can close the gap that is existing between the rural areas and then the urban areas, or endowed areas and then underserved districts. For instance, when we talk of access, while you will have known that at the national level, when it comes to availability of junior high school, we have almost 85% of primary schools having junior high school. But when you come to underserved districts, GS has about 75 districts classified as underserved districts. When you come to them, you'd have realized that about 60% of them are not having junior high school. What that means is that when a child finishes primary school in that particular community, commuting to or transitioning to junior high school becomes a challenge. And when we take areas like this, you'd have known that even some of the junior high school are more than the GS recommended distance. Per GS norm, access to education should just be within about 3 kilometers to 5 kilometers distance or radius away from the child's home. But we've seen that distance from the school to the child's home has always been more than that when you come to areas like that. So when you do not have junior high school sited close to the child, and the child at the end of primary education will have to walk long distance to get access to junior high school, then the tendency of that particular child continuing education becomes very less, and we can see the issue of dropouts very high. And then again, when we talk about access, we are currently having about 1 million children of school-going age that are not or have not been to school before, and then about 400,000 that have been to school and have dropped out. Yes, and that is statistics from the Ghana Statistical Service. So they have been to school with about 400,000 that have been but have dropped out. And they are also mostly in the underserved district. So if you want to close the gap, it means that you will need to site school more closer to some of them to be able to have the ease of access. And these are some of the issues. When it comes to quality, you look at the BEC performance, you realize that in the rural areas, their performance is 20% lesser than that of the rural areas or endowed districts. And then when we take resource distribution, for instance, textbook, you'd have noticed that while textbooks are available, we just did and track textbook availability in some of the schools across the country. We've done the rural and urban dimension to understand the dynamics in that area. You have noticed that of the schools that we sampled, all the districts in the or in the resource districts, they are having the textbooks in the 4 core subjects. Or every school within the district in the endowed district, they are having. But when you come to the underserved district, they are lacking some of the textbooks. For instance, when you talk of Tatale, Sangle, and you want to mention mathematics textbook, you not see a single school having that. So there are some of these dynamics that are existing when it comes to rural-urban education that the political parties that we need to pay particular attention to in able to close the gap. And again, at the secondary school level, closely we are looking at the Free Sina High School. It has been a topical issue from the onset, from its inception. It has been a topical issue that we feel that government must pay attention to. The academia has been putting the pressure on the government, the media has been putting the pressure, civil society has also been making the case that you need to take a look at the Free Sina High School program. And the key issue for us when it comes to the Free Sina High School program is making it more targeted. Not to say we're making it more targeted, it is not even targeted at all, so it should be targeted. And we just did a cost-saving analysis of the Free Sina High School policy to understand how much government is committing to the program per student and what parents are also committing. And we noticed that per unit per year by government is about 1,200 or a little over 1,200. And when you come to the side of parents, the parents are doing about over 4,200. All right, so annually. So parents are also making some financial commitments. And if a parent would have to help the ward to have access to secondary school.
I mean, clarify that. So the government is paying 1,200 per child?
Yeah.
Per child?
Yes.
Per year?
Per year.
Per year.
Yes.
And the parents are paying?
Also doing about 4,200.
4,200. Still under free SHS?
Yes, still under free SHS. And when you look at some of the things they make expenditure on, we'll talk about feeding, because feeding has been a major issue. The 4,200 plus is actually, 60% actually goes into feeding. They have to make provision.
So 60% of the 4,200 per year that the parents are spending is into feeding?
Feeding.
That's what you found?
Yes. So is it the case that before free SHS, parents were not feeding their wards in secondary school? But the point we are making is that when the free SHS actually come into effect because of the food shortages and quality of food, parents were spending more on feeding their wards in school, making money available for their wards to spend.
So what you're saying is, just for clarity, what you're saying that before free SHS, they were still spending. But are you saying that they were not spending as much as 60% on feeding?
Exactly. So now, aside the feeding, which constitutes 60%, the other comes to transportation. And then because we look at the frequency of break, now today they are going home, tomorrow they are coming home, parents also reported spending about 20% on transportation, and now the others on personal effects. So parents are making some commitments still under the Free Sina High School program. And we are saying that for you to have the program to be more effective, there are some parents still that are unable to help their wards to benefit from the program. If you look at the access over the year, we are still having about 290 students from 2017 to 2021 who on the first attempt were unable to get access to or enroll just because their parents were not having money to buy the prospectus items for them to enroll. So while you may have been running free SHS program, some of those students who actually needed the program because of financial reasons, they are still remaining at home. So how do you target the program to ensure that such students, that the parents will be able to afford the prospectus items for that child to come to school? And we say target the program. You look at it and you can't be able to spend more on that child who is from a low-income household if you have not reduced spending on somebody that is from endowed household. So it's very important that we reduce or we cut spending on somebody from an endowed household, and then we can be able to increase spending on somebody from a less endowed household, even if we want to bond the cost of prospectus items for somebody from the first poorest wealth quintile or the second poorest wealth quintile. We'll still be able to do that because we are not going to spend on those that are in the upper wealth quintile. If we are able to do that, that will able ensure that more of the students who are from less income households are able to get access to secondary school education. Then when it comes to the area of complementary basic education, it is actually a program that targets the out-of-school children that I talked about, the 1.4 million children that are to instance. So the government looks at providing complementary 9 months education for them so that once they grasp the basic of literacy and numeracy, they will now be transitioned into the mainstream system.
And as the audience and members in the room begin to talk, I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot more to expand on it, particularly Kaba, on some of the issues that you need to. And I want to bring in our audiences now. Now we've laid out the issues from the sifting and breaking it down. I want to hear from you. Let's start with the education. Let's start with it. We have 3 issues: education, health, and then we will do social protection. But let's start with education. We are, after all, in BATCO, which is an educational institution. I want to hear what the key educational issues are for people in this room. And there were some very strong views expressed on that. And so I want to hear that. And Blessed is with me and is standing by to bring the microphone to you. So yes, just raise your hands and let's hear you. This is your forum. This is your forum. Let's hear you. There's a hand? Yes. You just mention your name and then let's have an interaction.
Okay. My name is David Amazevga from Meta Foundation, Bolgatanga. Yes, my issue with education is I will plead that the political parties should make it a point to take management of education in general, to take management of education out of politics. The politician has nothing to do with management of education. Because all these things we are discussing is because of the way we have infiltrated most of our sensitive areas with political lenses. That is what is making all these things happening in our country. For instance, if you look at the free SHS, we all know that yes, it's a good policy. But there are issues that could have been handled if they had allowed technocrats to handle the free SHS. Why will you leave GES, then you set up a secretariat to manage free SHS, where you put politicians in charge? They will make policies that will help them to win power. They are not making policies that will help education in Ghana. So my issue is that let's take education out of, our political. There are so many spaces that we can play our politics. Let's leave education out of it.
Okay, that's an interesting point. In other words, you want the parties in their manifestos to commit to get education run by experts and technocrats and not politicians making the decision. Is that even feasible? But everywhere else, and Divine, you may have to chip in at some point on this. You have the politicians, they define the policy. And by virtue of that, they control the political decisions around education. So how do you fix that in a manifesto, for example? I'll come to you. But I saw a hand. Yeah, that's it. Okay, great. Please, let's mention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you very much. I'm the person of Ayinda Goseri Idrisu.
So, sorry, say that again.
Ayinda Goseri Idrisu.
Okay, and where are you coming from?
I'm a trainee.
A trainee, okay.
Yes,
so
please.
trainee teacher.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Good to hear from you.
I have a contribution concerning of the introduction of the quota system in the colleges of education. I think one of our guests may mention of access.
Quota system.
Yes, the quota system. Yes, in the colleges of education. Yeah, the main mention of access of quality education. Now, I think with the introduction of the free senior high, a number of the enrollment in the senior high school have been increasing every year. And after the students complete, they don't get the access to the colleges of education or the tertiary level. To be specific, the colleges of education. The student then gets access. Why? Because the portal will be open, the students will apply, and at the end of the day, they will take a limited number. Baga here, last year, over 3,000 students applied for the college here. And at the end of the day, 320 students were admitted. When you go to Tamale College of Education, over 3,000 students applied. At the end of the day, 312 students were admitted in the college. I think it's a headache to us. So we want the government of the day to sit up, or as it is an election year, both political parties that should try and incorporate it in their policies, who will try to help and elevate those who have the right to go to school, so that next academic year they can equally apply and get access to schooling. And then the issue of licensure in the College of Education too. I also want to throw more light on it. When you come to the college here, we are running 4-year degree program, B.Ed.
So the first issue is access
system.
to College of Education.
Yes, please.
Okay, and the second issue, licensure.
Licensure issue. Yes. The licensure issue, we trainees, we are not against it. But the government of the day, how he implement it, we are not happy. Because I cannot come here good 4 years. In my first year, I have STS, which is called supporting teaching in school. And I will do this practical observation at the field from my level 100 to level 400. And at the end of the day, I have to go and do my mandatory national service. In the middle of the national service, I have to stop and come and write a licential exam. We are not against it. We are saying that governments should add it into our courses. Our last semester in level 400, we should add it into our courses so that we can add it, and then we also learn as a course. At the end of the day, you write and then complete. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. But Blessed, I want you to interact with him for a second about a very controversial one. Blessed, you know this about the teacher trainee allowances. That's right. Yes. Because we have the nursing training allowances and we have the teacher training allowances. Divine, true? Okay. Blessed, you know that's an issue that over the years has also been very controversial. Interact with him for me about what his thoughts, because he's a trainee, what his thoughts are on whether it should be maintained or not.
Well, so opinions have been divided ever since about the quota system. People belonging to different sides of the aisle on this very issue. I was interacting with Divine earlier, and of course he's smiling about it on stage with you, because the concern has been about allowing access, and also with those who are on the other side talking about the issue of maintaining what you have and giving them the best of care whilst they're undergoing training. These are the two divides that we have in terms of that quota challenge, and also the issue about the the allowances. And then the licensure then comes in, which we've just heard from the trainee, raising concerns about why they would have to go through a period of training and then still take that licensure examination. So these are all of the concerns coming up. But of course, I want to hear from some more people who are also here with us. And of course, you just said...
But I'm just hearing his thoughts on the trainee allowance, because he's a trainee.
Precisely. The issue about the allowance. It's also a very controversial one, correct?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, with the issue of allowance, I think when we came here in level 100, the government was paying 400 Ghana cedis per month. By the end of the day, it got to a point that you have to reduce the allowances. So they are paying us a month 149 Ghana cedis. 149.
149
Ghana cedis a month. So it's a headache to us. It's a headache. Yes, you have reduced it. It was 400 Ghana cedis.
And you see a lot of murmuring going on. Is it the case that's not there? Why are your colleagues raising?
What's happening in the room? There's some...
Showing us.
Say that again.
Just take your time, and Evan, there's a lot of your time and share the concern with us. You're saying 149 every month, but your colleagues are raising concerns about it.
Yeah, so government that produces 149. So we are not happy. We are not happy.
Okay, so the teacher trainee allowance you're claiming, Evans.
Unfortunately, with the mic, we'll try and fix that microphone very quickly.
The claim is that the amount has been reviewed. We don't know if this is official.
No, but sorry. Let's fix Blazer's mic so you can have this conversation.
Yeah.
Let's have that microphone fixed. But you were receiving 400 at the beginning.
Yes.
Did you receive yours last month?
Yeah, that was those days in 1100.
Okay.
Yes, we were 400 Ghana series, and out of the 400 Ghana series, 200 Ghana series were going to the feeding component, and 200 Ghana series was coming to our pocket. So that's what I'm saying, that as it stands now, government that produced it's now 159, 49 is coming to us now.
And your colleagues have a concern about that because they seem to be raising issues, even with that figure.
Yeah, it's a concern, so we are not happy.
What's the concern now? Is it about how... Is it consistent?
It's not consistent. The money is not coming across.
So let's hear others.
Let's get to some more people. Obviously, I'm sure that I see that there are some more people raising concerns. Maybe you want to come up here and just share your concern.
Yeah, thank you very much.
On the same subject, though. But wait a minute. Who else is here? Who is a trainee? Okay, I want to hear from the trainees. I want to hear from. Okay, you're a teacher. I'll hear the trainees and I'll come to you.
He's a teacher, but let's hear from some of the trainees who want to share their concerns.
Problem is, it has reduced. The money is not coming through. At least in the reduction, when it's come every month, although we are not okay, but we accept it like that. But you've reduced it and it doesn't come again. That's our problem now.
Okay. And you say, how much do you receive now? You also, just to confirm.
I think 4 or 5 months now, it has not come. Yes.
Okay. Another teacher trainee, one more teacher trainee.
Any more?
And shortly, I'll come to Divine to tell us why this is important. It's also about where the policy is focusing. I think it's similar to the nursing and the doctor analysis that was made earlier. Should we still maintain this? Or should we be changing the policy in the manifestos going into the 2025, right? Yes, please.
Concerning the allowance, it doesn't even come. Some of us are there. I think we didn't even receive our allowance. They will pay, some will not get. We'll let them complain. We'll go the access to go to our ICT officer. We'll go and do all the necessary procedures. But still, some we don't even receive our allowance. Okay. And with the deduction too, it was 200 cities. When we came level 100, I'm a level 300 student now. It was 200 cities that they used to pay us. But now it has reduced. And some crowd don't even get.
Okay, and Blessed, so those are teacher trainees hearing, giving us your sense. There's a teacher, Blessed, on the side. Interact with him for me, because I want to hear his thoughts on the same subject before we begin to get the parties to give us their responses to this, if indeed they are thinking about what to do with that policy in their manifestos. I want to hear the teacher.
Okay, yes. So, Evans, we have a head teacher here
okay.
Who also wants to share. Head teacher, okay, yeah. Okay, but go ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I would suggest that...
you introduce yourself for me, please.
Yeah, my name is Yakubu Amin Abukari. With Ghana Red Cross Society.
Okay.
And then a volunteer. Yeah, certainly, I would suggest that the teacher trainee allowance should be scrapped. Yes.
Why?
And then, yes. And then the money, even though it has been reduced from 400 Ghana cedi to 149, and then so those monies could be used to expand infrastructure in those the colleges of education to give chance to expand the intake. Yes, because when you look at because
so you scrap it and you use the money to expand infrastructure.
Yes,
infrastructure. Yeah, to improve access.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, because. Yeah, because if you look at they are going tertiary, and then if you look at the universities and the colleges of universities and the technical universities,
There is nothing like that. It is a full course, and at the end of the day, the student will come out to look for jobs. But at the colleges of education, regardless of the delay, at the end of the day, the various teacher trainees will be posted.
All right, Evans, I think what we also have to do is to hear from some more trainees, just to get a sense of what's happening, and also listen to, you're also a teacher, sir. So if you could just rise up and share your concerns with us on this one.
Thank you very much. I'm Bilson Dramani, one of the teachers in the College of Education, Baga. In fact, in respect of the allowance, then said it has not been regular. And our observation is it is when the government has a political activity in their party that they want to highlight that they are paying, then they trickle it in and say that they are paying trainee allowance. They should ask them. So this has been used as a political tool to just blindfold the students. I have two submissions. Going forward, we are going tertiary. We haven't gotten there yet. So if there is a need for the sustenance of the teacher trainee allowance, it is for a purpose. And the purpose of it is to support them in their STS activities. With the STS activities, those days, the government provided vehicles to convey the students to where they will be observing lessons. It is no more there. All our vehicles are broken down. So if they are supporting the teacher trainees with the allowance, one, it should be regular. Every month it should come. Two, if they don't want to pay allowance, please, they should take it off so that parents will know that the burden is on them.
I mean, you are a voter and a citizen.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I can hear clap. What do you want? Because remember, the parties they are here, you're listening. I'll come to them shortly. They are now crafting their manifestos.
Good.
That's why we're having this conversation. Tell them and let them hear you loud and clear what you want them to do when it comes to the teacher training allowance. I've had one brilliant suggestion. Scrap it, use the money you're saving to expand infrastructure and improve access, right? What do you want?
One, in terms of infrastructure, I think Get Fund is there to cater for infrastructure. So the purpose of the allowance is not to give it to them and expand infrastructure. The capping on the Get Fund should be taken off to allow for its full operation to give infrastructure to the various institutions. Two, I think that because of the automatic employment of the teachers when they come out, they should take off the allowance, allow more people to come in, ensure quality so that they can be posted to the system. On the other hand, if they still insist for political reasons to maintain allowance, please, it should be regular, effective, and fast.
Okay.
Evans, I think we can hear from some more people.
And I just want to announce, if you're here and you want to speak your local language, feel free, raise your hands. Martina is standing by. Martina will interpret, and we can all hear loud and clear. So don't be intimidated at all. We want to make this as inclusive as possible.
Thank you very much, Evans. Still on the same issue. I stand that the teacher training allowance should be scrapped off. The reason being is that with the access to quality education, this teacher training allowance have kept off some people with qualified certificate to be enrolled in this particular tertiary institution or training colleges. They have quota system said that the government will come out with a number of which he think or the leaders think they can pay them these allowances. So within this year, about 4,000 applicants came in, but only 300 students were given the chance to come to training colleges. What happened to the other 3,700 students? They will be sitting in the house. And the other reason is that, what if university students, those that are under faculty of education, also start to say that, or they demand that the government have to pay them? Where will the government get the resources?
Yeah.
You are a student, you are not supposed to be paid. You are a student, you need to learn after your college education, automatically you'll be posted. So there's no need for the government to pay you whilst you are still schooling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And before I come, this is just on teacher training, but education is very broad, right? So I want to expand that a bit more, and we need to go to health and social protection. And still on education, I see our friends, persons with disability with us. And remember in the pre-event, there were issues that you raised. I want to expand it beyond teacher training allowance, including, for example, expanding access to persons with disability. And so if you want to express that so that we can expand on that, I would like to hear it. Our friends with disability in the room who have those issues, please raise it so we can take it. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm called Bukar Mahama, a retired educationist and a chief at the same time. Let's ask ourselves, why allowances? There was a reason for coming out with it. The demand for teacher education trainee wasn't all that paid heed to. So that was what they used to entice people to enter into training college. And let's ask ourselves again, at that time, how many colleges were there? Only a few. Now look at our colleges. All the universities are training teachers. I don't want us to be biased or have some idea against any institution. So my decision is that if they could put it aside and rather use the money for something else for the institutions.
Okay.
This is what I have decided.
Thank you very much. And I want to, and there's more behind you. I'm grateful. That's a very brilliant point, and this is the reason why we're here. Yes?
Well, Evans, you were talking about social inclusion.
Yes.
There's a visually challenged person also joining the conversation, and of course, he's been yearning to share a point with us. Introduce yourself to us and share your point, sir.
Okay. Thank you. My name is... okay. Okay, thank you. Yes, I am Al-Hassan Abdurrahman Maltiti, a member from Ghana Blind Union. Yeah, my concern is about blind education. Yes, in northern region here, we have a lot of challenges in the education sector. Looking at northern region, the whole northern region, we don't have any blind school. Our blind school is only Upper West, and looking at northern region is too vast. Assuming you are in Yendi and you want to attend to Upper West region, and you are maybe almost 2 years old, it will be very difficult for the parent to leave their children to go to the school. So now what we are trying to say is that we need integration. We are appealing to the political leaders to see to that, so that they will integrate the schools for us, so that everybody will go to school on his own communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that's a very good one about improving access to persons with disability, particularly those who have who are visually impaired. Yes, Martina?
Now, no, the entire 5 regions of the north, it's only in the Upper West region. And they pick from the nursery to the senior high school. So if you have a child in any of these regions who is between small like that, you would have to go to the Upper West. And that is a challenge because you don't have the foundation. How do you get to the junior high school or the senior high school? So that is the challenge that people who are visually impaired in the 5 regions of the north are going through.
Okay, thank you. And I want to quickly now wrap this up on education so I can move to the next issue of health. And I want to hear the parties on the subjects we've heard so far. But let me just go to I'll come to the education, health, because it's important. I need to because of time. Before we do that, though, there's a bigger subject around also free education, free SHS, and access. In the the meeting before we came live, there was a suggestion about reforms in that sector. That also came forth, and we will all take that all together. But I want to go to the parties on the subject of the education issues that have come up. Very briefly to the reps. I want to hear from the MPP rep. Very briefly, I know the parties in the process, you formed your manifesto committee and etc., etc. If you want to quickly on the subject of the teacher training allowance, the view is that scrap it, replace it with something else, and use the money to expand access, for example. Well, what's the thinking of the party in that area, as far as you know, particularly as it borders on this region?
Thank you very much. My name is Brahma Azazi Damba, representing Honorable Felicia Tete, the MPP parliamentary candidate for Sagnago constituency. Yes, let me start off with Mr. Divine's analogy on free senior high. He made us to believe and to understand more about how much we parents are committing into the free senior high and how much government is paying. He told us that government pays around 1,100 Ghana cedis.
I think 1,200.
1,200 Ghana cedis, whilst we parents pay up to 4,000 thereabout.
Yes.
That's fine. He was able to explain to us how come parents are able to pay up to that much. We have our children. I have my 2 children. One has completed, the other girl is still in school. And it's not matching with what he's telling me. And I want him to help us with the cost analogy that he gave to we the parents as for what reason the cost of the education is higher than that of the government. How much government is committing also. We need to know what government is committing into this project or this activity. How much is it costing? And you factor everything together, then we'll know that, yes, government is actually paying 1,200 Ghana cedi. Then we'll all take a decision from there. But to take a surface finding like this, it may not sink well into some of us.
As a party rep, though, there are general concerns in the room before we went live and during the live that there's need for some reforms to the senior high school policy, the free senior high school policy. What do you say to that?
If I know the loopholes in government's own funding, then we can profess.
I mean, you were in the room before we went live. You hear the audience in the room raise some of the issues with free SHS.
Yes.
One woman, for example, I believe is sitting right behind in the front row, raised the issues about access and quality. And one was asking, in fact, that our retired educationists also raised the issue about because we are not getting our duty bearers to put their children through the school.
Yeah.
Exactly, you heard that.
Yeah.
So there's a general sense in the room that there's some form of reform that is needed, right? What's your own belief in that, your reaction to that as a party rep?
Yeah, actually...
Especially because you are crafting manifestos now.
We are doing it, but I was caught out of guard. I wasn't there when they made
no
their
problem.
own presentation.
Let me hear from the NDC very quickly. We have the regional secretary with me. I wanted to give me your quick take on how you represent the party in this region. You are the chief scribe of the party. You've heard the educational concerns. How is the party approaching it this year in finalizing your manifesto?
Thank you very much. My name is Mohammed Abdel Salam, Northern Regional Secretary for NDC. It is a popular view, as much as it is the NDC's view also, that having implemented the free SHS policy for close to 7 years, there's every need for us to have a holistic view of the policy. Contrary to his position, challenging the views that parents spend more than government is, I felt that even the margins quoted for parents didn't take cognizance of extra classes. Other than that, it could have been more. I am a living example. Only yesterday, my son with Presec, I had to pay 750 cedis for online extra classes. 750. They are going to be home for close to 3 months. Government is currently paying no peswa during the holiday period. But I'm going to augment for the period that the child would have been learning for 3 months.
So what are we going to see in your manifesto this time to address
First of all, we need to look at the period that students spend in school. You will agree with me that this particular students who are reporting for the first time in school. They spent less than 2 months in school. And they are going to be home for 3 months. Why? Parents who are unable to be able to find money to engage the students.
So how is your manifesto addressing that?
Good. The NDC manifesto on that specific policy is not out, but it has been our position as a political party that we need to get the students to spend more time in school. Scrap the policy of double track completely. Then possibly revert to the term system instead of the, semester system that we are compelled to take the students through.
Okay.
The students need to engage with their teachers more in school and consistently, rather than having to be in with regular teachers in school and out with extra classes teachers who have more time to engage with them. If you want your student to perform, then you must indeed pay more to give the student education at home.
Okay,
And
thank
that
you very
for me
much.
is not
Thank you very much. And I'm very biased when I have a woman's hand up. So although I'm wrapping up on education, I saw a woman's hand up here, and I want to hear her before I switch my conversation. And if you're not a woman and you put your hand up, I'm not going to call you, because this one I'm being biased towards our women folk. Yes.
Okay, so my name is Aisha Maltiti Hussein, and I'm from a civil servants organization. And with my years of experience with community service, one of the gaps I have identified in education is the school feeding program. Yes, there is a woeful inequitable access in the school feeding program, especially in remote communities. And what's the effect of this? The contact hours students are supposed to have in school is being reduced, is being slashed, because in remote areas like this, when the students are asked to go home and eat and maybe come back, they wouldn't come back. So it compels the school to close at maybe 12 instead of extending that period, sometimes as early as 11. So I want to put it out to the political parties out there that they should, first of all, have a review in that program. And also, there should be there should be equitable access. After the equitable access, there should be some form of monitoring. There should be tracking, because they are dispersing money for this particular project. Are they actually in use? Are they using them fully? And are they reaching these remote communities we have out there? Okay. That's my point. Thank you very much.
Martina?
She's talking of the feeding at the grassroots. Now, there's one concern. When you go to the GS, they say they are not in charge directly when it comes to feeding of these children. It is the political party reps who have been handed these contracts. And so they don't report directly to the GES. So it's very difficult for the GES to track, to ensure that these people actually cook.
And one of the suggestions we had at the beginning was that take politics out of the management of education at all levels. And that is one of the things we've coded. We've written down, we're going to get the parties to think about it, how they try and reflect this view in their manifestos. I'll take this final one, yes?
My name is Ehsan Mohammed, and I'm from the Empowerment Center for Peace Building. I'm also a graduate teacher. And my concern is that I don't understand the reason why teachers from the colleges are posted after school, yet teachers from the universities are not posted. And we all go through the same practical aspect of the education. We all go through the supported teaching in schools, the observations and all that. Yet they even have allowances and sometimes even transport them to the schools. And we have to use our own monies for transportation to the schools. Yes, we all come out and they are posted and we are not. I don't understand why.
Okay, thank you very much. Divine, quickly, you've heard everything. Wrap it up for me in terms of, based on what you've heard, what are the key issues from what we've heard that the parties should be dealing with, that when the parties' manifestos are out, we should see that in that? If you don't mind, first, the controversial subject of teacher training allowance. Very briefly, because I just have 2 minutes for you. I want to move to health. Device microphone, please.
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Yes.
Cancelling the trainees' allowance has been our position for a very long time. we agree with all the views expressed by participants that there's a need for us to take away the allowance. Our educationists rightly mentioned the reason for introducing the allowance, and we asked ourselves, do we still need the allowance to incentivize people to go to colleges of education? The answer is outright no. Even the mere fact that we are now changed from diploma award institution to a degree award institution, which means that whatever somebody from College of Education, the degree the person will be having, be equivalent to or the same as somebody from university. And when they post you, you are all going to be on the same rank, PS, principal, superintendent. So that alone is even a motivation for somebody to go to College of Education. And the fact that there's a job that are already available, you'll be posted, is also enough motivation. Okay. We don't need to spend an average of 240 million on feeding adults when student loan is there for them to access.
So in other words, the data shows the policy has outlived its usefulness.
Okay, so change it. Take it off. Okay. And then also reviewing the secondary school, the free senior high school policy that has actually featured prominently. We believe it has to be targeted to ensure that it goes directly to those that are in need of it. Inclusive education also featured from what the participants mentioned. For us at EduWatch, when it comes to inclusive education, the main issue there is financing, especially improving budget credibility for the policy implementation, the inclusive education policy implementation. You see government allocating resources to it, but when it comes to disbursement has been very low, so there's a need for government to pay attention to ensuring that a resource actually allocated to the implementation of the inclusive education policy is rightly enhanced. So from what the participants, yes, someone to talk about the feeding program. Yes, we again also believe that currently there are one series 20 pesos that per student per year that government is channeling for the Ghana school feeding program is not enough.
What should be ideal? What should be ideal number?
The ideal at least should be three Ghana cedis.
3 Ghana cedis. So in other words, you're saying that this year when the parties sit to craft their manifestos on education, we expect them to put in there that they commit to increase how much they're spending on a child.
Exactly. Beyond increasing to at least the minimum of 3 cedis, we believe that there's a need to also borrow from what is happening at LEAP. At LEAP, currently there is what they call indexation mechanism introduced at the LEAP program, such that when as inflation increases, automatically the rate also adjusts for the LEAP beneficiary. We should bring something to that when it comes to the feeding program, such that once inflation increases, food inflation increases, the per unit will also automatically adjust.
Okay, great. And I want to come to the area that Kaba has been very eloquent about. Caesar, who is a health economist and consultant, laid out for us what the health issues are at the beginning. I want to get my audiences to now chip in. You all go to hospitals. You all go to seek health care. Let's have a conversation now from your point of view. What the political parties should be doing. Well, what are the issues of concern to you when it comes to the health sector? For which reason you expect the parties to come to you with policy proposals that addresses them? And I'm dealing with health here. This is strictly the health conversation. Blessed. Yes?
My name is Florence.
Doris.
Florence.
Florence, yes. Florence.
When it comes about health issue, dealing with fiscal challenge people, sometimes it's difficult. The nurses doesn't pay attention. And when you go, you have to queue. You have to queue with others before they will attend to you. And sometimes the way they treat you, you will not even like it. And when it comes with my colleagues, the deaf and dumb people, I think if they could get posters and then some signs to show them, when you come, this is where you have to go, this is where you have to go. And then I will also add that they should teach some of the nurses, some of the basic things, so that when they come, they will be able to give out their problem, and then they will understand and solve it for them. Thank you.
And you say this because this is your lived experience. This is something that you've lived, right?
Yes.
You're not just saying it because you've heard.
No.
I want to, if you can share your own personal experience so people can appreciate that this is not something you plucked out of the air, out of thin air. This is reality for you.
It is. Because one time ago, I was very sick. I was having pneumonia. So when I got to the hospital, I have to queue. So I went with my brother. My brother have to queue whilst I lie on the chair crying. So I was having a doctor friend. Then I decided to call her. Then she now came and sent me to the emergency ward. And they give me some drugs for the pain to reduce before they work on certain things.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, and I'm grateful, delighted that you actually make time to come here. And she's a person living with disability herself, and she raised a very important point. Yes?
I want to add up to the inclusive sector. We talk about inclusive. We don't know some of the things that are following up, because like with the parents, as you are physical challenge and you are a child, you need some certain things. And nowadays, the wheelchairs are very expensive. So parents will have to struggle with the children. When they get to GSS, then they have to stop because of the posting. There is no means of help that will help them be going to the school like every day and coming back. So if the government can seek to that, if parents are able to struggle with their children up to the GSS level, then the government to now take over from the SHS level to the tertiary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is the reason why Star Ghana and Joy News pull this together, so we can hear from real people about their real needs and see if the parties are even beginning to think about it. Caesar, that's an important point, right?
Now, Evans,
Yeah,
before you
so-
go to him, she mentioned one critical issue about the deaf and dumb. That's one issue that when you engage them, they would continue to raise. When they get to the hospital, there's nobody to interpret to the doctor on the condition they are bringing. So if you don't have somebody to go with you from the house to the hospital, you may end up going back and not getting the right treatment that you say.
Yes, Caesar.
And that's really a critical point, right? So the experiences we know that some persons who are deaf, for instance, like she explained, when they arrive at the hospital, then it is reliant on the one who brought them to explain their condition. And in so many cases, the family relatives are not even able to interpret what they are going through. And so it is very difficult for a health provider to provide a service. So the communication barrier and gap is clear, and the health sector have really identified that. So years back, the government decided that nurses and health providers should go through some basic training on sign language. Like you heard the audience say, the challenge is that it's not being enforced well. It's just like French. A lot of us have gone through French education, sometimes at a basic level, but if we start speaking French right now, there are so many people who cannot go further. And so there needs to be a deliberate policy or effort that will streamline, maybe having dedicated persons, specialized well, who are service providers, so that when somebody arrives, there's the minimum skills required to understand their health challenges and solve them. But even more disastrous is that, like she said, there are still hospitals and health facilities who don't have a medium through which someone coming with a wheelchair can access the doctor. These are public institutions. And so
what commitments do you want to see this year in the manifestos to deal with this?
Yeah, I think there's the need for us to really look at the needs of specific health facilities in terms of how do we get people to access the care they need with the platforms that they require, like the wheelchair. But also, like I said, critical very much is the sign language bit. Because I have done clinical practice before, and we know that the only solution a medical provider can give you is based on what you tell them. You can't solve their problems if they cannot explain to you what they are going through. And so if we want to really be equitable and inclusive, then the health providers must have the skills to communicate with everybody. Or we must situate people who understand sign language and basic medical terms in the consultation room, which has ethical implications. And so we need a policy to go either ways to try and solve
these
that.
are deep things, and at least it's giving the parties a sense of what people are thinking before they cast their ballots. I want to hear more views from my audience in the room. Yes, on the health sector.
Evans, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
If not, good evening. So I have a particular concern with the health insurance card. Over the years, it's losing its relevance, which is a big headache for the people who really need it. So I want to also emphasize that this is a lived experience as well. I've been working with the health and rural areas for the past 10 years. So we've been supporting them with mobile clinics and then raising funds to support surgeries. But we realized the health insurance could come in as a messiah that could give them access to free basic health care wherever they are. So far, we managed to register over 4,500 people on the health insurance. However, they keep complaining that the card is irrelevant when they go to the hospitals. They don't even get medication. Now, the card doesn't cover even labs. It doesn't. Or it does cover, even card. When you get a card, the lamination, you have to pay for it. You pay for
Sorry, somebody mentioned the amount. 10 CDs.
5 cedis.
5 CDs. Sorry, please clarify. How much do you have to pay for the card? 5?
Yes.
5 CDs, okay.
So I want to emphasize, aside lamination.
People can afford that in this part of the country, or this has become a barrier?
This is a barrier.
It's a barrier, okay.
It's a barrier because those in semi-urban, semi-rural are able to afford it. But when you go to the typical rural communities, they are not able to afford it. So even aside the relevance of the card, the availability of the card and the services of the office is also in question. We are ending the first quarter of this year, and we haven't been able to register anybody. However, we have a backlog of about 3,000 possibilities to register 3,000 more people this year because there are no cards. The office do not have staff. They don't have cars for the communities. So there are some a whole lot of things around the health insurance that is making its relevance very low.
Let me now hear from you as a citizen and as a voter later this year. What then do you propose the parties do about this in their manifestos? Because once they write it down, we can hold them to it, right? So what do you expect there, based on what you know and what you've just told us?
Yes, we expect some allocation of funds from the government to the Health Insurance Secretariat, and not the other way around like we have seen this year, some money is going out of the health insurance to the government. We should also see some collaboration between the hospitals and then the government, early paying of their, that's one of the reasons why some of the hospitals are not even accepting, because they accept and later the monies are not coming. So you come, they tell you, please pay upfront. So we expect that collaboration between the government and the hospitals. And also we expect the access. A card is 8 cedis. The government could take this to make sure that at birth you get a card. So that from birth we know that you have free access to basic health care until you are maybe 18. Then you pay for a card. But in Ghana, the moment you are beyond 3 months, you can no more use the card of your mother. However, if your mother doesn't have 8 cedis, you don't have a card. And because of that, you are cut off access to health care if your mother is financially unstable.
Okay. Great points there. Great points. I want to hear a few more. And I see another lady. I'm very biased towards the ladies. Very biased towards the ladies. I want to hear a lady. The men, they don't mind. You don't mind, do you? We want to be very inclusive in the conversation. Yes, there's a hand. Okay. Martina, I wanted to hear a lady, but it's okay. Yeah, just give it to a man. I'll blame Martina, who is a lady who gives it to a man. Although I am the man who wanted to hear from a lady. It's okay. Let's hear her.
Well, thank you so much. Please, I would like to find out the...
please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Mohammed Isaku Selfu, a tutor here. Thank you so much. The specific... Hello? On taxes of medications in general, taxes that are imposed on medicine in general. we realize that medicines in general become so expensive these days. And we know, especially the medicines on illnesses and life-threatening conditions like hypertension and diabetes and all other related conditions that affect people mostly even at old age. We know. Right now, the prices of each of them has tripled. And if you ask them, they will say taxes on them. That taxes have been imposed on them. That is why the prices are so high. What specific, policies do the parties have to reduce taxes on some of these medications that will allow those who are in the business to reduce the prices that are normally put on some of these medications?
Okay. I will flip the question to you before I come to the lady in front. I want to hear the lady in front. I've been meaning to hear her voice. But I'll flip the question to you just before I come. This is your forum. Blessed, I want him to attack the question. This is your forum. What policy do you want to see in the manifestos on that subject?
Thank you so much.
Before we even hear from the parties, what do you want to tell them what you want?
What I want and what I think is appropriate to do is to take off taxes on medications in general.
Okay.
And then ensure that those in the business, the pharmaceutical companies, comply to this particular directive. They reduce the prices that they impose on some of these medications. Because you may take off the taxes or reduce the taxes, and because they want money, if there is no supervision to ensure that they equally reduce their prices, they could still even keep the prices so high.
Thank you very much. Blessed, I wanted to hear from the lady in front. And now I will take one when I'll hear from the parties on this, and then come back to Caesar. Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, from you, and then I'll hear your voice on this. Yes, please go. Proceed.
What I want to know is, I don't know, so it's a question. That do the health workers account for people who died in hospital within some period? Because I've been to hospital several occasions, and this is my observation. I can see that health workers are not afraid of people dying. So I don't know whether they've been seeing the death and know now it's normal to them or something. Because me not being a health worker, sometimes I'll go to the hospital and see someone's situation and I'll be shivering. But the nurse or a doctor will be reluctant, which I don't understand. And sometimes I know, fine, I'm not a nurse, I've not been in health education before, but per my understanding, I know that when they brought patients, at least a nurse know how to handle a patient. So the nurse should help the relative or something to take the person out of a car to the stretcher and push the person. But in my locality, Techmai like this, Holy Family Hospital have been a very problem to me, which I've been observing things from long time, which I don't understand.
So you've asked a very important question that I see that you have to take that, because this is quite separate from what we expect in the money. But I want you to take that. And then final one, I'll take a final one. Let me take a final one with the lady in front. The men, I'm exercising my discretion to be biased towards the women. Forgive me. Let me hear this.
Thank you very much. My name is Yakubu Rahinatu. I was a former assemblywoman for this area. I work with Ghana Health Service as the regional health promoter. I just want to touch something small on what she said. She said the nurses and the doctors are not afraid of people dying. It's because they are used to that. And secondly, every human being has his or her attitude towards human beings. So that is the long and short of it. Well, I have something that I want you to help me. I work with the Regional Health Directorate closer to Central Hospital. JICA allocated a portion to build a pediatric ward for Central Hospital. Everything has been done. The clearance of the materials to come and start the work that the duty on it they cannot clear. JICA, they have forfeited their lunch, their breakfast, their dinner to support Ghana. And then they brought the materials. The materials are lying down. They cannot bring the materials to Tamale to start the construction of the pediatric ward. I want the politicians to add this to their manifestos. We don't have. We are vulnerable. People have come to help us. They brought their materials. Allow them to come and start the work. Then you say the tax. They cannot pay the tax. What kind of thing is that? Politicians, sit up on this. 2, I want us to look at our CHIP compound. CHIPS is something that is so dear to my heart. If Central Hospital is far, Teaching Hospital is far, there's a CHIP compound by your house. You want to assess your BP. You want to assess your sugar. You just move there. You are having slight headache. You move there. They will take care of you. But you enter into a CHIP facility. They don't have tools to work with. Politicians, the leaders, I'm on my knees begging you in your manifestos. Take care of the CHIPS compound in our facilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a good point to hear from the parties. He's spoken. I want to hear from the parties now.
Evans,
before I come.
She made a mention of the Tamale Central Hospital. Even before the equipment came, the clearing of the land for that hospital, Ghana Health Service could not afford. It took the intervention of an MP to clear the land for the work to begin. So that is, and another issue when it comes to taxing is Tamale Metro Assembly has a sister relationship with Louisville. They brought in medical equipment to support the hospital in the northern region. But these machines were seized at the port because of tax, and they finally auctioned out to individuals.
Okay.
So denying the people the opportunity to have basic health facilities which would have come for free. So this just to add to what she's just
What
mentioned.
she said. And that's one of the key things that have come up. Completing uncompleted health infrastructure, but also clearing equipment and supplies that had been donated to us at the stack at the port. But because she turned and asked a direct question of the political parties, I want to hear them now. Let me hear first from the MPP. Let me hear from the MPP rep. Just the MPP rep. Who is the MPP rep? Who is going to? You, please introduce yourself.
I am Abu Mohammed, Secretary for Tamale South, representing Tamale South parliamentary
Give me a brief response to everything you've heard in the health sector today, particularly the question that was just asked of you.
Yes.
As you craft your manifestos.
Yeah, all the submissions that they've made are true, particularly with regards to the sign language. Nurses find it difficult to communicate.
We know it's true. They've told us already.
Yes.
Now tell us what the plan is from your end in fixing what they've identified, and they have proposals for you too.
Yes, the plan is that what we're going to do is that we'll make sure that maybe we'll employ some people who are expert in sign language to be at the hospitals. So since their number is minute, maybe sometime they'll call them to come and render services and go. So we'll incorporate it into our manifesto to make sure that those people are catered for. On the part of health insurance, yes, ever since we came, we took the health insurance and we've boosted it up. But sometimes it looks as if some people have a negative attitude towards the health insurance itself. Because someone will bring the card and maybe somebody at the health facility would like to take money instead of the card. Meanwhile, looking at the statistics, this government has been able to clear the backlog and there's no any arrears with regards to health insurance. Even if it is there, it may not be all that strong. That would deny the citizenry the health care that they may need. And on the part of someone made mention that health trainees, they should stop giving them allowance and rather concentrate.
Nursing
yes,
training.
that is nursing trainees. They should stop giving them allowances and rather concentrate on a doctor-patient ratio. That one too is good. We'll put it in our manifesto. We need to train more doctors. If more doctors are in the system, it will help in a way. So in short, this is what I can put across.
Let me hear from the regional secretary of the NDC.
Meanwhile, he's working with the health sector, so I'll hold him when he's going.
Which means that he's more qualified on this subject. So let me hear him.
Thank you very much. The subject of health financing has been of a serious concern. For that, the NDC, the future NDC government promises to, first of all, insist on the implementation of the provisions of the National Health Insurance Act, which act requires that when the ministry takes levies as National Health Insurance levy, within a period of 30 days, it should be paid into the National Health Insurance.
Within 30 days.
Insurance
so you are going to commit in your manifesto.
fund.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, as I speak, that has been committed already.
Okay.
Again, there's presently a capping on internally generated funds of the health facilities. A future NDC government intends to scrap completely any capping on the internally generated funds of health facilities so as to make more resources available to the facilities for the services. Clearly, you see that the concerns that have been raised regarding people's disregard for the NHI these days has a lot to do with access when it comes to the rural areas. Presently, health insurance provides for accredited pharmacists to be able to provide for the medicines needed if they are not available at the hospital. But if you go to the entire eastern corridor of northern region, it is only in Yendi that you will find a pharmacy. So how will you expect?
I mean, the entire northern region?
Eastern corridor.
Eastern corridor.
I'm not talking about...
There's one pharmacy.
I'm not talking about drug shop or what do you call it?
In Yendi.
A sales counter, a pharmacy. It is only in Yendi that you will find a pharmacy. So what that means is that for a pharmacy to qualify to even be somebody in Saboba, if he happens to go to the hospital and there are no medications, and these medications must be prescribed by a pharmacy level, it means that there's no any other way the fellow can get the medication except to buy them or to travel all the way to Tamale or get a brother in Tamale who may end up buying. So the future NDC government, which in future to partner with the private sector to help set up specifically pharmacies within these catchment areas to be able to help provide for medications that are not available at the hospitals.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Caesar, wrap it up for me. Have you heard enough to convince you that one, people know what they want and they want the real issues dealt with, and then secondly, the parties are really thinking about the real issues of importance to the people, both from the people's point of view and from the party's point of view. And if there's something that's left out, bullet it for me so we can move on to the next subject of social protection.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. So I think if you sit down and listen to the people, there's no way out than to say that these are the lived experiences of people, and you cannot run away from that evidence. The evidence is this is what they experience. And basically what we want in a health system is a responsive health system that delivers quality health care. And an important point was mentioned by one lady about medical products and medical equipment. You can say all the theories you want, but just last week, we celebrated World Kidney Day. We are currently facing crisis with dialysis machines. It is clear. So if you run away from their evidence, you know that so many tertiary institutions are suffering because they don't have the capacity to deal with the number of patients that require dialysis as compared to the number of machines we have. And if you just oppose that to the fact that currently we have a lot of increase in terms of the number of people who have kidney disease, and it's related to the kind of things we consume, it's related to diabetes, hypertension, a lot of them are coming up. So I just wanted to say that there's a critical need for the political parties to look at how do we resource the facilities we have. A lot of the time, health infrastructure is limited to the edifice. So we have built a tertiary institution, a regional hospital. But when you enter the regional hospital, the providers are unable to provide the services they are trained to do because a glucometer or a strip for testing blood sugar is not available. And that is linked to what the lady mentioned, that sometimes you are tempted to believe the medical providers do not care about lives. It is not true. But because a lot of the time, they may know your problem, but they have no solution. They know it. They know the solution. But they do not have the instruments required to save your life. So they watch you, your life is leaving you, but they have no help. So they also need help themselves. And the other point is on the nursing allowance. So if you incentivize...
You have to end on that one because I have to move on to the next slide. What must happen on that policy?
Yes, so what I want to highlight is that medical providers need a certain level of attitude to care for patients. If you incentivize a certain profession, you must put measures in place to ensure quality. Other than that, the people who get in there may be people who did not want to be medical providers. And so their attitude to medical care will not be that we all desire, because that is not what they wanted to do. Okay. Someone wanted to be a military man, and you put them in the hospital. The attitude cannot be like a nurse. So we are saying that let's look at the systemic issues. Strengthen the health insurance, whatever you do. Strengthen the distribution of medical health force and the specialized care we need. Let's ensure that the rural areas, and Evans, just 1 second to touch on this.
Just a minute. Strictly
just a minute. So, like our MPP colleague said, if you look at the data, government might be paying claims. We have backlog, so that one we cannot debate about it. Government might be paying claims, but we are paying claims and then we are not seeing the outcome we want. So we need to look at it. But what I wanted to point out is that the health insurance is operational also in private facilities. But if I were a policymaker, how do we incentivize the private facilities who are on the national health insurance to move to the rural areas? Because if they keep staying in Accra, and those who can pay for private health care are getting care, because the private facilities can afford to pay before going for claims. The public facilities sometimes are struggling. So how do we incentivize them
the private healthcare providers
to move to the rural areas?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
That is very important.
Thank you very much, Doc. Clap for him on that point. And clap for yourselves, by the way. You've been articulating the issues. And by the way, if you're just joining us, you are live on Joy 99.7 FM. You are live on the Joy News channel. This is a Star Ghana, Joy News, Ghana Connect Townhall, live from Tamale, the Bagabaga Training College here in the city, the beautiful city of Tamale, the northern regional capital. And we are happy to be interacting with ordinary people who are sharing their views on what the real needs are this year and going forward into the future. And they want the parties to include that in their manifesto. Some very fascinating contributions we've heard. One of the things now we want to wrap up with in the next few minutes is social protection, which is something that before we went live, in our pre-live conversations, came up very strongly. And something that I want to touch on before I come to the audience on that, we have just 10 minutes to get views and wrap up, is that we spend currently 1.54% of our GDP on social protection. Stuff like LEAP, the Livelihood Empowerment, Against Poverty program, school feeding, capitation grant, all of them are social protection issues. But 1.54%, is that enough? If it isn't enough, what should it be? as we expect the parties to craft their manifesto? What should they be committing to? Is one of the key things there. It's one thing that came up. Also, social protection to people in rural areas must be a focus. It's another issue that came up. And I want to go to Blessed. Blessed, this is an important subject that you've touched on already. Let's hear what the audience is saying on the subject.
In fact, Songtaba is one of the key civil society groups working in that space of social protection. And it's very much of concern to people within this part of the country who, of course, the experts have told us are much more in need of social protection policies. So let's try and get to, Songtaba to find out what they've been working on, what they found out within the area, and possibly what sort of policies they would want to see from the political parties. Your name, sir?
Yeah, my name is Shane Kasiru. I work with Songtaba as the head of programs.
Let's talk about social protection, because the electorate would have to make an informed choice. What is key on the agenda? And you've been working in this space within this part of the country for quite some time now. What's on top of the agenda for you?
So I think at the beginning of the conversation, I did indicate about the issues of LEAP. We as an organization have been working with a group of social excluded women for a very long time. And if government is talking about social protection, how is it inclusive? That touches base with all the women who have been accused of witchcraft and banned to live in witches' camps. For several years, and other civil society organizations have championed the agenda for an inclusive policy to disband and reintegrate these women. There's currently a bill before the president, whom he has indicated that in spirit he's in support of the content, but has refused to sign the bill due to certain legal challenges or technical challenges. But we as civil society organizations are still concerned that once we get this bill passed, I mean the anti-witchcraft bill passed, it is one of the biggest steps to improving social protection in Ghana.
And sorry to cut through, but the point about what's happened ever since the introduction of the bill, do we see more of these elderly women exposed more because the president is failing to sign onto this bill?
Yeah, I think issues of accusation comes up every day. Even when the president has refused to sign the bill, we've recorded cases of accusation. These things happen in the known, some unknown. And so as civil society organizations, we are concerned that once this bill comes to light, then the clear roadmap as to how it will be implemented will be laid out, and then people will now have the opportunity or the processes that they will use to claim back their right as they are being trampled upon.
Okay, LEAP is also a front burner issue because you believe livelihood empowerment could also take many of these communities out of cases of witchcraft accusation and also empower young girls and women. What form of targeting would you want these, political parties to take? Because it's not as though they've not embraced LEAP. We've seen successive governments run a varied form of the program. How would you want the targeting to be done, and what kind of policy reforms are you on the lookout for?
All right, so thank you very much. I think the issues of LEAP has been one of the issues we have championed on. When you look at the vulnerable nature of all the women living at these excluded camps, they are most qualified. But there's a very long criteria that has been used to target beneficiaries on the LEAP platform. And so currently, as we speak, not all the women living in the alleged witches camps are on LEAP. But then, if you pick all the vulnerability criteria and mark it against all the women at the camp, they are going to qualify as one of the most vulnerable groups you can find. But they are not all still on the LEAP. And so as a group, we are interested in political parties making clear commitments towards a good roadmap to targeting all these women onto LEAP. Maybe as a short term, but in the long term, what we are looking forward is the disbandment of this alleged witches camp.
I see, Evans, and that's the nexus between, witchcraft accusation and livelihood empowerment. It appears that there are more issues that we'll be getting from our audience shortly.
Okay.
But I don't know if your panelists will want to have a bite.
I'm interested. Is there a LEAP beneficiary in our audience today? Is there somebody in our audience who benefits from the LEAP program? You get the handouts at the end of the month? Okay. I'll take a view from the front. Okay, I'll take the view from the front. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm still Bilson Dramani. I want to look at the social protection in terms of security. In the manifesto of both parties, they say they want to protect the Ghanaian populace. But over the last 7 years, Ayawaso, people were beaten. Just Techima, 8 people died. And not even a comment to commensurate or sympathize with those Ghanaians who want to ensure that their votes are counted. Going forward, if we have a human rights president and these things are happening, what of if there's no human rights president?
So what do you want to see?
So I want to see this current government coming out clearly.
I mean, we're not talking about current government. We're talking about manifestos.
I want
for all
to
the
see
parties.
in their manifesto clearly stating that they will stop using the police against Ghanaians.
Okay. Okay, so that's an important point. And I have a hand behind, and that's going to be my last. Sorry. Yes, one behind. And then I'll take one more. Very short. Please do this for me in 30 seconds so I can begin to wrap up the conversation. Yes?
Okay, thank you. My name is Ridwan Mohammed.
Yes.
I work with MSEP. Yes. I think for social protection issues, I think the issue has got to do with funding or financing. So what I want the political parties to do simply is to convert our COVID levy going forward in their manifestos. We pay the levies anyway. And I think at this point, we do not have COVID. So I think they should convert what they collect as COVID levy into something that can contribute to our social protection interventions. I think that is what I want.
That's a suggestion for the parties. Convert the COVID levy and rechannel that into social protection.
Yes.
Okay. One final one. One final one. I see a hand at the back. And then I will wrap up. And I'll come to my guests here. The political parties are with me, so they also give me a quick wrap on the interventions of social protection, and I will wrap up. Yes, let me hear from you. What do you want to see in a manifesto when it comes to social protection? Yes.
All right. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My problem is on the health side. You see, sometimes you see that somebody will be sick severely. Then they will carry the person to the hospital. The nurses and...
Oh, sorry, your microphone.
Okay. Hello? Okay. Then some...
Oh, unfortunately, we're having a challenge with your microphone. I'm going to come back to my panelists here so they can help me wrap up whilst we try and fix that. But we've had a lot today. In the next few minutes, we need to wrap up. Let's now bullet for you, and I want to take all of you, just three and across the spectrum of issues we've dealt with, from social protection to education to health. Divine first. The 3 top issues that must necessarily feature in the manifestos of the parties based on this conversation. 3 top. Just bullet it for me.
All right, starting from social protection. One issue for me that should be the topmost priority but has not been mentioned is the political parties considering establishing a contingency fund that will address issue of crisis and emergency.
Okay.
I'm coming from the angle of at least what is happening in as far as Akosovo Dam is concerned. If not for the media, I don't know how the government have responded to that issue. So at least we need a fund that will respond to something like that.
Okay, so a fund, that's one. The second?
All right. When it comes to education, for me, it is about closing the rural-urban gap as far as access and quality of education is concerned. And then the last aspect is health. Prioritizing the national health insurance scheme that will ensure that it is effective in our hospitals. It is part of the funds that has been capped. I don't see it being uncapped easily because if you look at the IMF conditionality, somehow cap funds is part of it. So it will be very difficult. But at least we need a commitment from the political parties that even when we are exiting IMF, we will see a sign that they'll be uncapping some of these statutory funds.
Okay, so those are the 3 top issues you must necessarily see in a manifesto. Caesar, I'll come to you for yours. Let me go to my audience member whose microphone wasn't working before for him to wrap up. Yes, your top issue was?
Okay, once again, I want...
Oh, again, it's not. Let me wrap up with you. Unfortunately, the microphone isn't working for him. Your three top issues.
Yeah, I think they've been mentioned here. The fact that people need better access to care in terms of infrastructure, health instruments, and medical products. And the government or the next government has to have a good priority for that in terms of avoiding the abandonment of already started health projects. We have them scattered across the country. I know Joy News.
So you're saying that in the next manifesto, the top priority is completing all abandoned projects?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we need to enhance
okay, so that's your first. That's your first. What's your second?
Yeah. Then the next one is on health financing. I think it has been mentioned. The fact that we have a model that works, and the model is the National Health Insurance Scheme. We need to have strategic interventions to improve it. Other than that, in terms of social protection, there's usually the question, how much is affordable? Regardless of how you reduce medical products and medications, there's still someone who has to decide whether to eat or to buy paracetamol. And we call that catastrophic health expenditure. Over the world, we want to eliminate the junction at which people need to decide whether to eat or to use their money.
So what
do
you want to see?
So we need to strengthen the health insurance scheme to ensure that.
But what policy precisely will you propose?
I think the capping policy is, for me...
So remove the capping policy.
You need to remove it.
Okay.
And we need to ensure that government itself even commits some funding to support the health insurance
So remove
scheme.
capping and then commit funding.
Yeah.
So that's the second one. The third one?
Then the third one is health workforce. And we've mentioned this. The politics is too much. Let us have a national conversation on what cadre of health services providers we need across the country. We know, for instance, that specialist healthcare is lacking. Let's see if investment should be channeled better to train more Ghanaians to provide specialist care and ensure that somebody in Wa does not end up in Kolibu for healthcare services. Someone here in Tamale should not, and we see it, the ambulance system is a challenge. And so if you decide to access healthcare services in an emergency, the question is a facility close to you for you to get there, or you have a responsive ambulance system that takes you to the farthest of facilities? The two of them are not functional at the moment. Because even if the ambulances exist, there's fuel issues and all of that. So let's make the health system more responsive so that people...
And what policy proposals precisely are you proposing to fix that?
Yeah. We need to review the CHIPS compound policy.
And
ensure
to
that...
introduce what instead?
Yeah, it's not as if to cancel it. Review it and improve equipment in the facility as an entry point to detect people as early as possible at the community level and then treat them where necessary.
Okay, thank you very much. A round of applause for all yourselves. A round of applause for all yourselves. And thank you to my panelists who've helped us navigate this conversation today. And that, by the way, is Caesar, who you just heard there wrapping up. Is Caesar Kaba. He's a health economist and consultant. LA had Eunice Agbanyaji, the head of programs at STAR, Ghana, and Divine Quer, who you heard talk about the education issues. And to all of you who join us, and to the political parties who, of course, grace the occasion, to give us a sense of where the party is going in addressing some of the key issues that you've talked about. This has been the Star Ghana Joy News, Ghana Connect Town Hall, live from the Bagabaga Training College. And we are delighted that we brought this to you. I have been fascinated by just a complex number of issues that the citizens here have put forth. Some of them are really deep when you begin to think about the subjects around inclusivity and accessibility for persons living with disability, in education, in social protection, and also in health. But also if you look at the subjects of education and some of the suggestions that have come forth today, in what do you really do with the free SHS, for example? What do you do with the controversial subject of teacher training allowance? There's a suggestion that you scrap it, but what do you do with the money you save? Invest it in expanding infrastructure. A host of issues indeed. What will happen next? Star Ghana is going to put all this together, and the parties will get an official document in a formal engagement to get them to include them. It's an influencing process. Consider these issues that have come forth, and let's see that in the manifestos this year. It's really about what the people say they want, they need. It's about their needs. And that's what we've heard today. And I'm delighted that all of you could join us here at BATCO in Tamale. Next week, we are in the Ashanti Regional Capital, and I'm looking forward to that. We've been live on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll be live on the Joy News channel, on myjoyonline.com, and across our social media platforms on YouTube and on Facebook. I've been doing this with my colleague Blaise Soga and Martina. We've been produced by MFA Elliot Tiamwa and a whole team that traveled with us to Tamale to make this possible. We're going to come away again next week, by the way, with another edition of the Star Ghana, Joy News, Ghana Connect Town Hall. My name is Evans Mensah. Enjoy the rest of your evening. This is your election headquarters.